here with Candie Cooper, and we are putting embellishments on top of embellishments, right?
My favorite thing to do.
Yeah, so we're gonna make these amazing leather cuffs, and I know that we're talking about lots of layers here. So how do we get started?
Lots of layers, lots of processes, but so easy to make. Okay, so first you're gonna pick your cuff. And you can do this technique on wide cuffs, skinny cuffs. I've got every color. We're gonna use this distressed one. So I'm gonna sweep those away.
So this comes this way, already distressed. You haven't done any work here yet.
Haven't done any work. This embroidery thing is so hot right now. I'm really excited. This idea has been in my head forever. But you need to get a pattern on here, right? And we're not gonna have the little grid fabric, so we gotta do it ourselves. So I was thinking about it. You could use a rubber stamp.
When you talk about the little grid fabric, you mean like when you're cross-stitching and you have the either linen or like an actual sort of something that has little holes in it?
Totally,
yes.
Totally. I'm not like, sorry not to be super technical. But you could rubber stamp with like some permanent ink. Look for like some patterns that would be easy to, you know, find dots and things like that. Or I found these stencils at the craft store that I'm super stoked about.
I'm getting super excited now because now that I'm thinking about cross-stitching, I'm looking at these triangles here and I'm seeing exactly how that's gonna create a stitch guide for you.
Yeah, stitch guide. Thanks for putting a word to it because I was like, how to explain. So right now I'm gonna just stencil it on and I'm just kind of mixing a metallic silver with a little bit of brown just to sort of tone that metallic down. You know, I don't mind if some of the dots show, but also I don't want a ton showing. You know what I mean? So I just swizzled the paint around and now I'm blotting it off onto the paper towel.
And I noticed that you're using a stencil brush, which has a very like flat, blunt bottom.
Yep, because I think a lot of people are used to brushing, but really with stenciling, you want to go just straight up and down.
I see. So you're not actually like rubbing the paint through the holes. You're dabbing up and down.
Right. You don't want to rub it because that's going to scoot your paint and get rid of your dot pattern, which it's not that big a deal, but you can see how I'm getting my dot pattern. So you can peel it back, check it. I need a little bit more up here.
You know, it's so funny, Candie, the way that you mix this brown and the silver is super surprising to me because I would never have thought to do that combination, but it's absolutely beautiful because it makes it metallic, but almost coppery somehow.
It works, yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you, yeah. It's just a subtle thing. So if it peeks through your threads, no big deal.
Well, it's also like, I love this idea of not having to own like every single color of paint that there is, but that you can mix so many colors just by having a few choices. So having like a strong metallic silver and then just mixing it with, I know a lot of people don't buy brown paint because they think it's like an ugly color or something, but I always say there's no ugly colors. It's really about what you pair it with.
It's true. It's true. So now we've got our pattern.
Beautiful, just like that. I mean, you could just wear it like that.
Too. Yeah. I actually thought the same thing. Some of these stencils are really fun. You can get just like whatever effect you want. So now you're gonna let that dry. You can use a hairdryer if you need to speed things up. But I brought a skinny mini cuff where I've already got some simple dots on here. These are kind of bohemian style cuffs. So, you know, like it's okay if your pattern's a little crooked. But now we're going to just start punching holes. You can do this in a couple different ways. I'm using a regular hole punch. What size is that, like a 16th?
Oh, that's good that you technically know, because I was like, I don't know, it's an
small,
itty bitty one.
Extra small. But you can just punch right through the leather really, really easy.
I was gonna say, is that, because you do need a lot of hand strength in order to make it through. I think of leather as very thick.
Yep, no, you don't. I mean, there are some thicker leathers, but this stuff, it just goes really easy. So you can go ahead and do all your tiny dots. If you have little pieces sticking up, just go back through with your wire cutters or something and just nip those away. Let's say you want some bigger holes. You've got your, this is a leather hole punch. So it has a rotating wheel on it. I'm gonna go with the largest hole so it's nice and big. And just line it up with your paint dot. Snappity snap.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really handy, right?
So you're just following the pattern that's there. Now, would you punch every single hole that's in the pattern, or would you kind of make some choices?
That is funny. I think it's good to be selective at first because you can always add more holes. Of course, like, I'm gonna lick my thread. Adding holes.
Oh, can I show you my favorite threading technique?
Yeah,
is that okay? May I steal the other end?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I'll lick this end, you lick that end. But so here's what I always learned, which is if you put the thread into your finger so it doesn't show, and then instead of threading the needle, you're actually going to needle the thread, It comes through every time.
Well, I'm liking that.
perfectly.
Thank
Isn't
you.
that a fun tip?
Yep,
I use
it's
that
really
one all the
good.
time. So now I notice that you're doubling it over and you're actually going to stitch with 2. And now is this embroidery floss that we're using?
We're using embroidery floss, but you could use like pearl cotton or whatever, or wool or whatever you want. You could use anything.
Something fun.
Yeah.
And colorful. I like also, you know what, they have some of that embroidery floss that comes like in multiple colors that's like striated and stuff. That would be really cool.
Totally. So that's what I've got some variegated over here.
And you want to kind of, the word.
You want to kind of group your flosses together and your leather and look see if you like the big picture first. Thanks for mentioning the variegated. But I just started on the back. That knot's gonna hold just fine. I mean, you don't want to tug it, but now you're just gonna, this is like kid sewing, right? The holes are there, they're nice and big, and you can just start putting your needle through.
So you're making kind of like a star pattern almost, it looks like.
Yeah, well, I'm just like going with it. Now I stopped punching the tiny holes right there, but I've got one I've been working on. You can also, it's worth mentioning, I'm using a tapestry needle. That's my little short needle with the large hole. And you can also put a touch of like white school glue or something on the back to seal that knot in.
So let's just talk about the tapestry needle for 1 second, because I think this is something people don't realize. So tapestry needles don't have a really big eye, and then that point is blunted. And I've always found that the blunted point helps me from poking an extra hole somewhere.
Absolutely. I just like sewing with them. They're just my size. So now,
I like how you're going over the edges. I feel like that's a fun detail that really makes the embroidery feel integral to almost like holding the bracelet together.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, I forgot to punch the rest of the holes here, but we're just gonna tie off anyway, because I wanna show you a couple other things. So when I tie off, I just slip I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but I just slip the needle and thread right under the previous stitch and just pull in. Just like that.
That's exactly how I do it too, just to make sure. And then a little bit of white school glue really does help to secure that.
It's going to be great. And the cool thing about using embroidery floss is it's soft on your wrist.
Yes, I was just thinking that. That's nice, because I know you brought some alternatives here, right, that have some leather stitched into them, which is another really cool and fun idea.
Thank you. Yeah, just 1/2 millimeter leather, and you're just gonna punch your holes and keep on stitching.
Super cool. I'm ready to take some stencils and create some stitching guides.